The Earth is in the middle between Mars and Venus, but Venus should not be so hot. It should be warm.
For decades, the Soviet Union kept its intense interest in Venus under tight wraps, launching numerous Venera missions to uncover the planet's hidden secrets. Although many discoveries were made, the most shocking details and photos were locked away in secret files. Now, with some of these long-hidden images suddenly declassified, scientists are sounding the alarm and panic is spreading through the research community. Could these photos expose powerful secrets with the potential to impact Earth itself? Join us in this video as we find out. Scientists panic over declassified photos from Venus the Soviet Union kept hidden. In 2023, scientists around the world were thrown into panic after a long-forgotten archive room in Moscow, sealed behind layers of Soviet-era red tape and dust, unexpectedly revealed a chilling secret. A researcher, while digging through Cold War-era space records, stumbled upon a set of declassified Soviet photographs that had been kept hidden for over 40 years. The images, never before released to the public, were linked to the Venera missions to Venus, specifically Venera 13 and Venera 14, which both landed on the planet in 1982. These photos had never been published in scientific journals, shared at press briefings, or even documented in the Soviet Union's own internal science reports. Locked away in delicate, time-worn film canisters, the images captured the hostile Venusian surface in stark black and white and rare, degraded color. Most of the pictures showed what was expected: jagged rocks, lifeless soil, and the dense, toxic orange haze that blankets the planet. But among them were several photos that defied explanation. Some frames were eerily blurred or suspiciously cropped. Others were missing timestamps entirely. A handful had scratch marks across key areas, damaging the very sections where crucial details might have been visible. Some showed mist-like patterns near the surface. Others revealed strange, solid shapes that didn't match any part of known Soviet equipment or debris. As experts began examining the mysterious photos, a disturbing theory emerged. The images had likely been tampered with. Evidence suggested someone deliberately obscured or removed visual information, possibly to suppress what had really been discovered. When digital specialists used advanced AI to enhance the photos, what they uncovered was even more unsettling. Blurred portions became clearer, and new structures came into view. Some images showed what looked like biological forms, delicate, branch-like filaments, clustered shapes similar to cells, and textured waves unlike any natural rock formation seen on Venus. But the biggest shock came from images revealing strange gas emissions seeping through cracks in the Venusian ground. Planetary scientists who analyzed the patterns were stunned. The gas formations closely resembled phosphine, a compound considered a possible biosignature, since on Earth it's primarily produced by living organisms. For decades, Venus had been dismissed as utterly lifeless. Its temperatures are high enough to melt lead, and its clouds are filled with deadly acid. It was the last place anyone expected even a hint of life. Yet here, buried in Soviet archives for over 40 years, were photos that seemed to show signs of unusual gas emissions, possibly linked to biological processes, captured long before the modern search for extraterrestrial life had turned toward Venus. The release of these long-concealed photos triggered a wave of panic and disbelief across the scientific community. Researchers who had written Venus off as a sterile wasteland were now forced to reconsider everything. Urgent questions followed. Why were these photos hidden for so long? Who had the power and the motive to keep them secret? And most pressing of all, what exactly were those strange emissions rising from the cracks in Venus's scorched ground? In planetary science, phosphine doesn't just appear. It has to be made by something. And if that something exists beneath the blistering surface of Venus, the implications could rewrite everything we thought we knew. Not just about that planet, but about the possibility of life beyond Earth. What hidden clues finally brought the long-forgotten photos back into the spotlight? Stay tuned to find out. The Forgotten Venus photos that sparked a space mystery. By the 2010s, the Soviet Union was long gone, but secrets from its space mission still hung in the shadows. Much of the data from the Venera program had never been properly preserved or deeply analyzed. That changed when one determined Russian scientist chose to dig deeper. His name was Leonid Ksanfomality, a veteran researcher at Russia's Space Research Institute known for his hands-on work with planetary imagery. In 2012, Ksanfomality made a stunning announcement. After revisiting the photographs taken by Venera 13, a probe that had landed on Venus in 1982, he claimed to have found evidence of motion on the planet's surface. These weren't random image distortions. He pointed out that some objects seemed to shift positions between photos, even though the lander had remained completely still. He identified three especially strange objects. The first was a disc-shaped figure that appeared in some images, but was missing from others. The second resembled a scorpion-like shape, which in one photo cast its shadow one way, and in another, the shadow pointed differently, a change that shouldn't occur if the lighting remained fixed. The third anomaly was a mechanical-looking flap or part, which Ksanfomality said appeared to either move or vanish between frames. Ksanfomality stopped short of calling these objects proof of alien life, but he made it clear they weren't random artifacts. According to him, the shapes showed signs that resembled living organisms. His findings, published in a peer-reviewed Russian science journal, quickly traveled online and were embraced by fringe science communities. Scientists in the West, however, responded quickly. NASA and experts in planetary imaging insisted the anomalies were more likely technical glitches, things like lens flares, data corruption, or interference from Venus's harsh environment. They reminded the public that Venus's dense, toxic atmosphere can twist and scatter light, and that the Venera imaging tools were rudimentary by modern standards. Still, not everyone agreed. A few independent analysts and UFO enthusiasts noted that some shadows in the photos clearly shifted direction, something hard to explain if the camera and objects didn't move. Others observed that several of the shapes had sharp outlines and visible textures, suggesting they could be real structures or even living forms, not just photographic noise. What made Ksanfomality's claims even more fascinating was their timing. Around the same period, scientists had begun focusing on Venus again, especially on the possibility of life in its upper atmosphere. Though many mainstream scientists remain cautious or skeptical, there's one truth they can't ignore. Ksanfomality's research reignited global curiosity about the unexplored Soviet data from Venus. What if the odd shapes he noticed weren't glitches at all? What if they pointed to something far more profound? Whether they were signs of life, remnants of unknown machines, or something else entirely remains a mystery. But one thing is certain, Ksanfomality didn't just revisit forgotten images. He reopened a door that the Soviet space program had quietly sealed decades before. Could any past missions or research efforts have revealed the clues that led to the discovery of these forgotten photos? Keep watching to find out. Hidden clues finally brought the long-forgotten photos back into the spotlight? Stay tuned to find out. The Soviet Venera missions, exploring Venus. Could Venus one day serve as a second home for humanity in space? This intriguing question sparked the curiosity of both scientists and the general public. The Soviet Union, eager to find answers, launched a bold effort, the beginning of the Venera missions. Through this program, the Soviet Union sent a series of spacecraft to explore Venus. These missions aimed to uncover the mysteries of the planet's atmosphere, surface, and environmental conditions. In his book, physicist Michio Kaku highlights images taken by the Soviet Union's Venera probes. Remarkably, they were the first and only spacecraft to return pictures from the surface of another planet. To fully understand this achievement, it's important to realize that many space missions during this time focused on Venus. But reaching and studying Venus isn't anything like a simple space flight. The planet's environment is incredibly hostile. It is hot enough to melt lead, its thick clouds are filled with deadly sulfuric acid, and the crushing pressure on its surface could flatten a human. Yet the Soviet scientists were undeterred. They were determined to take on these extreme challenges. The Venera project, launched in 1961, was one of the Soviet Union's most daring space programs, and it reshaped the future of space travel. The Venera missions sent several spacecraft, all designed to examine Venus's air, land, and overall conditions. These missions gave scientists crucial new insights into Venus, a planet that had long been hidden in mystery and danger. The Venera missions greatly expanded our understanding of Venus and opened the door to future exploration of other planets. They proved it was possible to land on alien worlds and carry out valuable scientific research. This success laid the groundwork for later missions like the Mars rovers and inspired the continued search across space for other worlds. Although the Soviet Union faced several early failures, it refused to give up. The following year, they launched Venera 2, which failed to reach Venus. But in 1965, Venera 3 succeeded. It sent a descent module that survived long enough to reach the surface of Venus. The next mission, Venera 4, marked a huge turning point. It successfully entered Venus's atmosphere and discovered that it was full of carbon dioxide, a heat-trapping gas. This helped scientists understand why Venus is so incredibly hot and raised serious questions about Earth's future if greenhouse gases keep increasing. Venera 4 also revealed that Venus lacks a global magnetic field. On Earth, such a field protects us from harmful solar wind and radiation. Without that shield, Venus is unlikely to support life. This was a major finding. It helped scientists better understand how magnetic fields form and how they influence whether a planet can be livable. These discoveries helped researchers think more clearly about which planets in our solar system, and possibly beyond, might one day be safe for humans. In 1969, following the success of Venera 4, the Soviet Union sent two more spacecraft, Venera 5 and Venera 6. These new probes were stronger than earlier models and carried advanced scientific equipment to gather even more accurate data about Venus's atmosphere. Venera 5 was launched on January 5, 1969, with a mission plan much like that of Venera 4. For 53 minutes, Venera 5 released a descent capsule that carried a set of scientific instruments. As the capsule slowly descended through Venus's thick and hostile atmosphere under a parachute, it sent back valuable data to Earth. The capsule carefully studied the chemical makeup of Venus's air, the spread of oxygen and hydrogen, the air's density at different altitudes, and what the temperature and lighting were like throughout the descent. Just 5 days later, Venera 6 was launched on January 10, 1969. This spacecraft was specially built to study the movement of cosmic particles, measure how much oxygen and hydrogen were in the atmosphere, and closely monitor the temperature and pressure of Venus's air. On May 17, 1969, just 1 day after Venera 5 entered the planet's skies, Venera 6 began its own descent through Venus's thick cloud layers. It was able to send back important data to Earth for 51 minutes while falling through the atmosphere. Its findings confirmed the earlier results from Venera 4. Venus's atmosphere contains extremely high temperatures, crushing pressure, and a heavy concentration of carbon dioxide. Together, the Venera probes, which were purposefully designed to explore the harsh environment of Venus, provided Earth with crucial new knowledge. Among these missions, Venera 7, launched in August 1970, marked a major milestone in space exploration. It became the first spacecraft ever to land on another planet and successfully transmit information back to Earth. The probe carried instruments designed to measure surface temperature, atmospheric pressure, and air density. It was also equipped with an accelerometer to gauge speed during descent and a radar altimeter to track the spacecraft's height above the surface. The flight to Venus took a significant amount of time, and engineers had to make several adjustments using the onboard engine to stay on course. The lander eventually touched down on Venus at a speed of around 59 kilometers per hour, arriving in December 1970. Despite several technical problems, scientists were able to recover 23 minutes of faint signals in the data tapes. These signals proved that Venera 7 had indeed landed successfully on the surface. During its brief time on Venus, the probe transmitted data for about 20 minutes, measuring a scorching surface temperature of around 887 degrees Fahrenheit and an atmospheric pressure close to 1,300 psi. Venera 8, launched in 1972, came with key upgrades and improvements. Its goal, like the missions before it, was to continue studying both the atmosphere and the surface of Venus, but this time, the landing went far more smoothly. Venera 8 was equipped with a variety of tools: sensors for measuring temperature, pressure, and light levels, an altimeter for height tracking, a gamma-ray spectrometer to examine the composition of surface materials, a gas analyzer, and several radio transmitters. The journey to Venus lasted about 118 days and included a planned mid-course correction to keep the spacecraft properly aligned for its descent. Could a fierce competition have fueled the missions that ultimately uncovered the lost photos? Keep watching to find out. The space race to Venus: how the Soviets did the impossible. The Soviet Union and the United States were engaged in an exciting and intense race, not a battle fought on land or in the skies, but a thrilling competition to explore the vast unknown of outer space. Both nations were determined to outdo each other in space exploration, constantly pushing the boundaries to achieve remarkable milestones. This fierce rivalry between the Soviet Union and NASA sparked major advances in space technology. Together, they sent astronauts into orbit, launched satellites, and explored the moon and far beyond. The Soviet Union pursued a daring space program aimed at breaking free from Earth's atmosphere and accomplishing extraordinary feats. Their historic success in launching Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite, stunned and inspired people around the globe. While NASA concentrated on uncovering the secrets of Mars and Jupiter, the Soviet Union fixed its sights on another celestial neighbor, Venus. In 1970, the Soviet Union became the first country ever to land a spacecraft on Venus successfully. How did the Soviet Union achieve this incredible landing on such a harsh and unforgiving planet? The mission, called Venera 7, was a groundbreaking milestone because Venus, though similar to Earth in size and mass, presents an extremely hostile environment. The difficulties began with Venus's crushing atmospheric pressure, which is about 92 times greater than Earth's. To put that in perspective, imagine being nearly 1 kilometer beneath the surface of Earth's oceans. That's the kind of pressure a spacecraft had to withstand on Venus. Then, there's the planet's intense heat. Venus's atmosphere consists mainly of carbon dioxide, mixed with traces of sulfuric acid and other gases. A runaway greenhouse effect traps heat relentlessly, making Venus the hottest planet in our solar system. Its average surface temperature reaches a scorching 460 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to melt lead. Additionally, Venus has a powerful magnetic field that shields it from the constant barrage of solar wind, streams of charged particles emitted by the sun. This cosmic defense creates spectacular electric storms and dazzling displays of lightning that light up the planet's turbulent skies. This remarkable combination of extreme pressure, unbearable heat, and fierce cosmic phenomena made the Soviet Union's successful landing on Venus one of the most extraordinary achievements in space exploration history. Behind the secret photos and space missions, what is the real truth about Venus? Stay tuned to find out. The truth about Venus: no oceans, no life. Scientists have issued a clear and serious warning to anyone still hoping that Venus might have once supported alien life. It's time to let go of that idea. For decades, researchers have wondered if Venus, Earth's closest planetary neighbor, may have once looked a lot more like our own world. Although today, it's a scorching, toxic planet with harsh conditions, some experts believed it might have once had oceans and, possibly, some form of life. However, new research strongly suggests that Venus likely never had oceans at all, which means it probably was never a place where life could survive. While we still can't know for certain until we send missions there, the new findings point to the idea that Venus has always been an unfriendly, hostile environment. The study used data from Venus's atmosphere to learn more about how much water is inside the planet, a key clue to whether it could have once held large bodies of water. The results showed that Venus has a very dry interior, supporting the theory that after an early period in its history, when the surface was covered with molten rock or magma, the planet dried out completely and remained that way ever since. Because water is one of the most essential ingredients for life as we know it, the lack of water deep inside Venus means it likely never had the right conditions to support life. The findings also reject an earlier idea that Venus might still hold a hidden reservoir of water beneath its surface, a possible leftover from a vanished ocean. Knowing the facts about Venus, let's dive deeper into what this planet truly is. All about Venus, Earth's neighbor. Venus, the second planet from the Sun, is often called Earth's twin or sister planet because they are close neighbors in space and share very similar size and mass. Both are rocky worlds, but Venus's atmosphere is vastly different, thicker, heavier, and denser than Earth's or any other rocky planets in the solar system. Its atmosphere is made mostly of carbon dioxide, CO2, shrouded beneath thick clouds of sulfuric acid, with no liquid water anywhere on its surface. Temperatures at the surface soar to an intense 737 Kelvin, 464 degrees Celsius, or 867 degrees Fahrenheit, while the atmospheric pressure is crushing, about 92 times greater than Earth's at sea level. This immense pressure transforms the lowest layer of Venus's carbon dioxide atmosphere into a unique state known as a supercritical fluid. Venus shines as the third brightest object in Earth's sky after the Moon and the Sun. Like Mercury, it always stays close to the Sun in our view, appearing as a morning star before dawn or an evening star after dusk, due to its orbit being closer to the Sun than Earth's. Notably, Venus has no moons. Among all the planets, Venus requires the least energy, known as delta V, for spacecraft to reach from Earth. This makes it a popular target for gravity assists, maneuvers that speed up spacecraft, or a waypoint for journeys heading further into the solar system. Venus and Earth approach one another every 1.6 years, a cycle called the synodic period. Interestingly, Venus spins very slowly in the opposite direction to most planets, a retrograde rotation, caused by the combined effects of solar tidal forces and uneven heating of its dense atmosphere. One full rotation, a day, on Venus lasts 116.75 Earth days, which is nearly half of its year length of 224.7 Earth days, the time it takes to orbit the Sun. Venus has a weak magnetic field called a magnetosphere, but unlike Earth, it lacks an internal magnetic engine or dynamo. Instead, its magnetic field is created by the interaction between the solar wind, charged particles from the Sun, and its thick atmosphere. Internally, Venus resembles Earth with a core, mantle, and crust. However, heat escapes mainly through volcanic activity rather than tectonic plate movements, reshaping the planet's surface over time. Scientists believe that long ago, Venus may have had liquid water and a climate suitable for life. but a runaway greenhouse effect caused all the water to evaporate, turning Venus into the scorching, dry world it is today. Remarkably, conditions in the upper cloud layers might still be favorable for life, and in 2020, scientists detected possible signs of life, or biomarkers, in Venus's atmosphere, sparking renewed interest and future missions to explore the planet further. Throughout history, Venus has held great significance in human culture, inspiring myths, astrology, and stories worldwide. Its unique characteristics also played a key role in shaping astronomy. The first telescopic observations of Venus in 1610 helped confirm that the Sun, not Earth, is the center of our solar system. In 1961, Venus became the first planet visited by a spacecraft, Venera 1, marking humanity's first interplanetary journey. However, it was Mariner 2, arriving a year later, that returned the first successful data. The Venera missions continued to push boundaries. Venera 4 was the first to enter Venus's atmosphere in 1967, and in 1970, Venera 7 became the first spacecraft to make a soft landing on another planet. Studying Venus has provided valuable insights into the greenhouse effect, global warming, and climate change on Earth. As of 2025, the only active spacecraft planned to visit Venus is the Solar Orbiter, which will perform flybys until 2030. The next major mission, the Venus Life Finder, is scheduled to launch no earlier than summer 2026, aiming to further unlock the mysteries of this fascinating planet. Venus is one of the 4 rocky planets in our solar system. Just like Earth, it's similar in size and weight to Earth, so people often call it Earth's sister or twin. Because Venus spins very slowly, it is almost perfectly round. Its diameter is about 12,100 kilometers, 7,520 miles, only slightly smaller than Earth's. Venus has about 82% of Earth's mass, making it the 3rd smallest planet in the solar system. However, Venus's surface is very different from Earth's. Its thick atmosphere is made mostly of carbon dioxide, about 96.5%, which traps heat and causes an intense greenhouse effect. The rest of the air is mostly nitrogen, around 3.5%. The pressure on Venus's surface is extremely high, about 93 times stronger than the air pressure on Earth. The temperature is scorching, reaching around 404 degrees Celsius, 867 degrees Fahrenheit, much hotter than water's boiling point. Because of these extreme conditions, the gases on Venus's surface behave like a special kind of fluid called a supercritical fluid. What did the Soviet Union represent, and what were the aims of their space exploration efforts? Stay tuned to find out. The Soviet Union from beginning to end. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, widely known as the Soviet Union, was an immense country that stretched across a vast part of Europe and Asia from 1922 until its dissolution in 1991. It held the title of the world's largest country by land area, spanning 11 time zones and sharing borders with 12 nations. It was also the 3rd most populous country in the world. Emerging from the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union was officially formed as a union of several republics, with the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic, Russian SFSR, being the largest and most populous among them. However, in practice, the government and economy were tightly controlled by a central authority. The Soviet Union functioned as a one-party state, governed by the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, CPSU, and was recognized globally as a leading communist power. Its capital and largest city was Moscow. The Soviet Union's story began with the October Revolution in 1917, when Vladimir Lenin and his followers overthrew the old regime and established the Russian SFSR, the world's first state built on socialist principles as written in its constitution. This radical change was met with resistance, sparking the Russian Civil War. In 1922, the Russian SFSR united with other republics to officially create the Soviet Union. After Lenin's death in 1924, Joseph Stalin rose to power and launched rapid industrialization along with forced collectivization of agriculture. These measures boosted economic growth but caused a devastating famine from 1930 to 1933 that claimed millions of lives. During this period, the system of forced labor camps, known as the Gulag, expanded significantly. In the late 1930s, Stalin's government carried out the Great Purge, a brutal campaign aimed at eliminating perceived enemies, leading to mass executions, imprisonments, and deportations. In 1939, the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany, but in 1941, Germany violated this pact by invading Soviet territory, opening the Eastern Front of World War II. The Soviet Union played a decisive role in defeating the Axis powers, but suffered staggering losses estimated at around 27 million people, the highest among the Allied nations. After the war, the Soviet Union took control of the territories occupied by its army, establishing pro-Soviet governments known as satellite states, while pursuing rapid economic development that solidified its position as a global superpower. Rising tensions with the United States led to the Cold War, a prolonged period of political and military rivalry. In 1949, the U.S. and its allies formed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to which the Soviet Union responded by creating the Warsaw Pact in 1955. Although the two powers never engaged in direct military conflict, they competed fiercely through ideological battles and proxy wars in other countries. Following Stalin's death in 1953, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev initiated de-Stalinization, a campaign that reversed many of Stalin's harsh policies and promoted a more open society, which strained relations with Communist China. During the 1950s, the Soviet Union made remarkable advances in space exploration, leading the space race by launching the first artificial satellite, sending the first human into space, building the first space station, and landing the first probe on another planet. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the Soviet leader and introduced sweeping reforms under the policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, aiming to revitalize the country. In 1989, countries within the Warsaw Pact overthrew their Soviet-backed regimes, and nationalist movements surged throughout the Soviet Union. In 1991, as efforts were made to preserve the Union in a new form, a failed coup attempt by hardline communists against Gorbachev accelerated the collapse. The largest republics, Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus, declared independence, and on December 26th, Gorbachev officially acknowledged the end of the Soviet Union. Boris Yeltsin, leader of the Russian SFSR, led its transformation into the Russian Federation, which became the Soviet Union's successor state, while the other republics became fully independent nations. Throughout its existence, the Soviet Union made numerous significant contributions to society and science. It boasted the world's second-largest economy and maintained the largest standing army. Recognized under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, it held the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons globally. As a key Allied power in World War II, the Soviet Union was a founding member of the United Nations and held one of the 5 permanent seats on its Security Council. Until its dissolution, the Soviet Union stood as one of the world's 2 superpowers, wielding influence over Eastern Europe, shaping global politics, especially in developing nations, and demonstrating considerable military, economic, and scientific strength on the world stage. What's your take on these newly declassified photos from Venus? Could they reveal something that might affect Earth? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.